ahead and play. Oh, little StreamYard hiccup there. Weird, but
Yep.
yeah, good evening, everybody.
Hello, hello.
Welcome to another episode of Critique Corner with me, Daniel Parker.
And me, DB Fastbinder, where we're just kind of exhausted with all the dumb stuff happening in media these days.
Yes, yeah, we were talking about that before the show. Where we're just like, kind of tired of being angry and outraged all the time.
Which is why it's good that we have a good thing of the week this week.
Yes, we do. And on that, if you are returning, welcome back. If you're new here, what we do is we start off with our thing of the week, which is particular media that the two of us have been consuming. Then we move into box office talk and then get into our topics.
Yep. And just as an extra little thing, if you're out there, let us know. We basically have the three segments of the show: media we've consumed, box office report, and us talking about a story or two from the week that was. Which
Mhm.
segment do you like the best? What are you here for?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah, that would be very very good to know for good for us to know so we can focus on one of those things more. Yeah.
Yep. And
Uh,
if you all just say stop talking about or stop talking about the dumb things of the week that was, and do extra things of the week instead, that wouldn't be the worst. But it's
yeah.
up to you. You're the semi-paying audience.
Indeed. Yes. But of course, before we get into thing of the week, we've got one little news item that we kind of need to talk about real
Yep.
quick.
So a few weeks back, we were talking about how there was talk of there being a Wonder Woman 3,
Hmm.
or at least Gal Gadot was saying it, and I kind of went on it was kind of it eroded my last bit of patience with James Gunn, if that was true.
Yeah.
It looks like that was not true. Um, it might be Gal trying to how to try to manifest a Wonder Woman 3 into existence by making a groundswell of support. It,
Yeah.
it could be that it, I don't know. It could be that the sources that Newsweek and other sources are claiming said it was they could be wrong, but either way, uh, I actually find that reassuring because it means that the plans that they were carrying out are yeah, yeah, you can question the wisdom of throwing out all these DC movies to die
Yeah.
to fulfill the contractual obligations. But at least we know they're being consistent with the plan and not treating Gal differently than Ben Affleck or Henry Cavill.
Indeed. Yeah. Um, I would say it's kind of a good news, bad news thing because I do like Gal Gadot. I did like her Wonder Woman, at least the first one.
Yeah.
Um, so kind of sad we might not see her again, but that's I think it's for the best just because like you're saying they're starting over with a clean slate and yeah, you don't want to necessarily be picking favorites with her over like over Henry Cavill or Ben Affleck. Yeah.
Right. It's confusing enough that they're keeping the Peacemaker and Suicide Squad stuff in there.
Yeah. Yeah. Of course that's James Gunn wanting to keep his stuff around.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it was fortuitous that I saw this correction because guess who else we got? A James Gunn movie.
Yes. Um So yeah, so for our thing of the week, we watched Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, which is now on Disney Plus. Um,
Wait, okay, wait.
mm,
Before we get into this, what Chris Hemsworth wasn't in that
was
movie, was he?
no, he wasn't. This is a bad poster.
Yeah. Uh, was he supposed to originally be?
Well,
Okay.
no, because
He
the Guardians were in Thor: Love and Thunder.
yeah. So was there supposed to originally be is this a fan made one? Because if that's a fan made one, that's a fantastic fan made poster.
It is, yeah. I actually prefer it over the one that they did.
Yeah, let's see if I can find the real one.
Yeah, because the real one was
Oh,
not very good.
this one. Yeah. Uh, we'll leave the fan fiction version up
Yeah. um,
because it might have been fun to see Thor in a cameo there, but
yeah, yeah. But given the way the movie went, though, I don't know where they could have fit him in.
they would have almost had to have had Thor break off with the group in this movie rather than Love and Thunder,
Yeah.
which could have been done. But okay, we've been completely sidetracked by me noticing Chris Hemsworth's name up here, but ignoring Thor randomly. Oh, and also Groot is too young looking.
Yeah, yeah. Groot's older in the new movie in
So
Volume 3. Yeah.
to whatever Photoshop expert put this together, nicely done, man.
Yes, yes. Very good. And I may want to hire you someday. But yeah. So we watched the Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, and it picks up I think kind of after the holiday special,
Yep.
um, where they're all living on nowhere, and they've rebuilt nowhere, and of course we get of course the movie is this movie's basically Rocket's movie if you think about it.
Yep.
Because so what happens is they're all hanging out in nowhere, uh, and Star Lord Peter Quill he's still not over Gamora, and drinking himself into a stupor, and then of course that night uh, Adam Warlock shows up to kidnap Rocket, and he beats everybody up, and then Rocket gets hurt, and so they have to save Rocket. And of course, they try to use like whatever the med pack thing that they have, but it doesn't work with his cybernetics.
Yeah. Specifically, this is why you have to vote for right to repair laws because Rocket has some proprietary technology that's designed to stop his heart if anybody tries to tinker with him.
Yes, and so they have to seek out the company that put all the cybernetics in him, and we find out that it was all given to him by the High Evolutionary.
This marks the High Evolutionary's, I would say, third non-comic book appearance that I'm aware of, because he was in an episode of X-Men the animated series. He was actually it was when they got into Quicksilver and Scarlet Witch's background.
Oh, okay.
Um, he was actually the main villain of the forgotten Spider-Man Unlimited cartoon that took place on Counter Earth.
Oh,
That was basically Marvel's attempt to be Batman Beyond.
oh yeah. Okay.
And
I
then
vaguely remember that show. Yeah.
and now this.
Yeah. Um. Yeah, and so they go out to try to they go out to this they find out that this base that's basically this like organic thing, and then they run into, of course they get help from the Ravagers,
Which means Gamora.
which means Gamora, yeah, and Sly Stallone.
Yep. I keep wondering every time I see Sly Stallone in something, how long can we possibly have Sly for left? Which is a grim thought, but like he basically looks like he hasn't aged in the last 10 years.
No, he's looking great. I mean, he's I think mid 70s.
Yeah,
Um,
I heard somebody say that the difference between how Arnold looks and how Stallone looks these days is the difference between Arnold being a steroid guy, where Stallone was a HGH guy, or
mm,
at least later in life he was an HGH guy.
yeah, yeah, that could have something to do with it. Um, but yeah, so they sneak into this company base thing, and of course one of the security guards working there is Nathan Fillion,
Yeah,
um, and they go in and I'm trying to remember what happened. Well,
it
they
doesn't look
sneak
good.
in. Yeah, it doesn't look good. Yeah, they sneak in. They're wearing these Among Us spacesuits.
Yeah, and so they managed to find out where this is, and or where managed to find out where Rocket's crater was, and that turns out to be this planet called Counter Earth,
Mhm.
which is from the comics, where it's this old sci-fi idea that pops up occasionally. Like I think I think there was like a little bit of basis behind it, where they thought there might have been like some gravitational anomalies on something, where they said, oh, there might be a planet on the like that happens to be on the direct opposite side of the sun from the Earth, and then people
Uh,
went to the races with it. Or well, possibly some, I'm misremembering that, and some smart sci-fi author said, hey, if I want a planet that has Earth-like conditions, I can just say, hey, we just never noticed this planet because it's in the one spot we could never observe it, because it
uh,
happens to move at the same rate as Earth and be the same size as Earth and have the same orbital plane as Earth.
yeah, yeah, that could possibly be true. Yeah, you never know.
Well, I mean, at this point, we've put out enough probes that we would have spotted it, unless the government is covering it up.
Yes.
But anyway, so they end up on this counter Earth, which is full of animal people like Rocket.
Yeah. And it kind of reminded me of like the island of Dr. Moreau.
Yeah, very much like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
And all through this, we get these flashbacks to Rocket's creation
Mhm.
in this lab with his friends, like a walrus and a bunny
Sea
and an
otter.
otter,
Yeah.
who all just have horrific things happen to them.
Yes. Yeah, and of course, very you know the entire time you're going to these flashbacks, you're kind of going, okay, something really bad happened to them.
Yeah, because like it's not like Rocket is out there with his three animal buddies.
Yeah, yeah. It's like, yeah, yeah. Um, and
I, I will say that
yeah,
the otter had a better end than in the or she had a better end in the Telltale game that they came out with.
oh, okay.
Because at least like as memory serves, Rocket buried her somewhere natural, like kind of where she always wanted to be.
Oh, mm. Yeah, yeah. It was yeah. That part was very sad. Which James Gunn, by the way, is very good at doing. He's
Yeah,
good at tugging your heartstrings.
yeah. Um, and so yeah, so basically, of course, the heroes they say fix Rocket, but the High Evolutionary hits the restart button on Counter Earth. Like, well, time to go make another civilization.
Yeah, and of course, what ends up happening is like Quill and Groot go in and are able to get the information that they need and make this big daring escape, but Mantis, Drax, and Nebula are like, "Oh no, they're still on the ship," and that's like,
As they fall past them.
right, yeah,
Uh, Like that's this movie in a nutshell. It's like it has a very serious situation, but I think they do a pretty good job of having moments of levity. There's
mhm,
some jokes that just don't land because it's too much bathos, which
yeah,
is a fancy writing word for emotional whiplash or like unwanted comedy after a moment of seriousness.
yes,
But Yeah, so ultimately, as we all know, I mean, the High Evolutionary wins, and he's gonna reset Earth, and it's up to the Inhumans to try to stop him. No, that's not not what happens remotely. That- but
What?
all the Guardians get to a good place with their character arcs, but the core Guardians group basically disintegrates.
Yeah. So yeah, at the end of the movie, Quill decides to go back to Earth. Mantis just decides she needs to go. She needs to find herself.
Oh, by the way, spoilers.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Spoilers. Sorry.
I was doing it too, and I was, oh wait,
Yeah. Yeah.
when we separate this out, make sure you say spoiler review.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yes, I will. Yeah. And uh, and so then, well, although we should probably mention why the High Evolutionary wants Rocket.
Yes, because Rocket is the only creation he has ever made with an imagination.
Mhm.
He was able to spot a flaw in one of his machines that the High Evolutionary and all of his other subordinates couldn't.
Right. Yeah. And so after Rocket escapes, he just becomes obsessed with him and wants to wants to rip him open and study him again. That's why he sends Adam Warlock after him, who let's be honest was treated like a joke throughout the whole
Yeah,
movie.
Adam Warlock was kind of there because they had set him up at the end of the first Guardians movie. And James, knowing that he wasn't long for Marvel, was like, I'm just going to tie up every loose end that I made.
Yeah, yeah, and he kind of puts him in there, sort of like what Sam Raimi did with Venom in Spider-Man 3.
Right. Where except Venom and Sam Raimi at least got like a foundational moment, and like you got to see his origin kind of play out just on fast forward.
Right. Yeah.
Adam Warlock is just one of those golden people from the
Second
uh
movie. Yeah.
second movie.
Yeah, and the tall woman from the second movie's in there too.
Yeah. Uh,
Um,
yeah, and Rocket ends up becoming it's like a found family thing where Rocket ends up being the nucleus of a new Guardians of the Galaxy.
right. Yeah. Yeah, and I think the new Guardians it's Rocket, Nebula, Drax.
No, Drax
Oh,
wasn't
that's
part of it. He left too,
right. Okay.
because he wanted to like take care of the kids they rescued.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
Um,
Uh,
Groot was there,
Groot. Yeah.
and then there was like one of the kids he had rescued who had psychic powers or something.
Right.
Oh,
And
and
then
the psychic Soviet dog.
right and Adam Warlock.
Yep. So I guess Adam Warlock. Yeah, I reject the idea that Adam Warlock had a point in this movie,
Yeah.
uh, outside of paying off the Easter egg.
Yeah,
Yeah,
pretty much. Yeah.
because basically anything he did, you could have had anybody do it. Um,
Yeah.
but let's talk about. We've kind of gone over the plot. Let's talk about good, bad, ugly.
Yes.
And you know what? Just to end on a high note, let's start ugly first. Adam
Okay.
Warlock,
Yeah.
pretty pointless.
Yeah, he was. Yeah, like I said, he was kind of there for comic relief,
Hmm.
and even then, it was kind of like, okay, come on, man, don't kick him when he's down.
Yeah, and he was just a complete himbo
Yeah.
because he had just hatched from the egg in the end of the first movie. So,
Hmm.
but it was like a special needs Superman is the best way to put it.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good way of phrasing it.
Um, as far as the other characters, I would say like the strangeness about this movie is that while it is Rocket's movie,
Hmm.
um, you don't get a lot of Rocket interacting with the main group because he spends like half the movie in a catatonic state.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, he's just yeah, I noticed that too. Yeah, most of Rocket's scenes are just in the flashbacks.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, which we'll get to that in the good. The ugly part of the good
Yeah.
is if you have a problem watching animals being tortured and afraid and in awful situations, then
Mhm.
this movie is going to be very difficult for you to get through.
Yes. Yeah.
Like we're talking like the otter has robotic arms because her front legs were ripped off.
Yeah. Yeah. The walrus and the bunny have their legs taken off, and
Yeah, the walrus gets around like a fake wheelchair,
yeah.
which I think is bolted to him.
Yeah. Yeah. You will definitely hate the high evolutionary by the end of the movie.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and that's before he like wipes out a whole planet to start over again.
Right. Yeah. 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 That's well, we'll get to that with the good, but yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Um, is there anything else that you would qualify as outright ugly?
I don't know if I would say ugly. Yeah.
Well, yeah, if we're out of uglies, we can move on to bad things that
Yeah.
could have been more than they were.
Yeah. Um, I guess the CGI was pretty good. Not great.
See, this yeah the CGI was really convincing for like the flashback animal scenes.
Yeah.
I didn't really detect any problems with it, but maybe after seeing the Flash, I'm just blind to bad CGI. It's like textures and
Yeah.
effort.
Yeah. Uh, there were a couple of scenes in like the scene with the giant tentacle things. I
Oh
can
yeah.
um that looked a little that looked a little rough, kind of like what I saw with Shang-Chi or Eternals, where it was
hmm
pretty obvious green screen, but I think they kind of get away with it because it's really dimly lit.
Ah, dark lights, the CGI artist's best friend.
Yes. Yeah. Um, trying to think. Well, go ahead with
I would
yeah.
say like so. I don't know if you're like me, but I watched the first two movies and I could not wait to go listen to the soundtrack.
Mm,
I don't know
yeah.
that I felt that this time at all.
Yeah, there were a couple of songs in there that were a little obscure, I think. A lot of 2000s like emo music, which
Yeah, yeah, because they got the Zune at the end of two, they were able to expand the eras that they were doing.
yeah. What what I thought was funny was they played Beastie Boys "No Sleep Till Brooklyn."
Right.
I'm
And
like,
I've heard multiple people go, "Where was Intergalactic, you
yeah.
dummies?"
Well, part of me wonders if they didn't pick that song because of Chris Pratt, because he was Mario, and
Hmm.
that song was in Mario.
Yeah, though. Yeah, I guess they would have had time to go in and edit that out. Like, ah, darn it, they stole our song.
Yeah.
Um, I would say those are the last things I would call bad. So it's like this is not a perfect movie, but you have pretty minor or Adam Warlock, I would say, is a major downside because he just kind of eats up time.
Yeah.
Not a lot of payoff, but like most of this is like most of this movie is good.
Yes.
Um, so like getting so let's if we kind of run through the characters. Groot is kind of flat like Groot always is,
Hmm.
but that's the joke with the character.
Yeah. Yeah. He only has 3 words that he says. Although at the end of the movie, he does say something different.
He breaks the rule.
Yes.
Chris Hemsworth was really a letdown in this movie. He was like he was
Pratt.
barely in it. Oh,
Oh, yeah,
making a
yeah.
dumb
Okay.
joke about the.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
This isn't me
Okay.
forgetting
Sorry.
names again.
Okay.
All right. Chris Pratt. I'd say that Chris Pratt and Time Lost Gamora have a very understandable character arc.
Mhm. Yeah, because he's obviously is still madly in love with her, but she's just like, I have no idea who you are. I mean, she couldn't even remember his name.
Yeah,
She kept calling him Quinn.
and it would almost be better for him if that Gamora had conveniently died at the end of Endgame, or
Hmm.
if they just hadn't done the time loss thing altogether, because he could have at least had a clean break. But it's like he can't move on because there's like this idea that if he that if he just did the right things,
Hmm.
then he could like get his Gamora back, like the hack, the cheat code to unlock the feelings that she had for him.
Right. Yeah. Well, and I of course she's probably in this movie because she was under contract.
Well, and also they had like an actual, unlike Adam Warlock, this wasn't just a checkbox. They had an actual character arc to fill.
Right. Yeah.
Uh, Nebula had a very interesting one in that her arc was intrinsically linked to Mantis and Drax.
Yeah. Yeah. She definitely evolves. Her evolution from being Thanos's, what would you call it?
Lackey?
Lackey. Yeah. To to being her own person, and then still kind of. I mean, she's a good person now, but at the same time, she struggles with talking to Drax, and she makes these assumptions about Drax that, like, oh, he's an idiot, he doesn't, it's like, well,
And
no.
Mantis for that matter.
And Mantis, yeah.
Yeah, like just getting tired of his dumb guy shtick,
Yeah.
which I said a few of the jokes didn't land. A lot of them were Drax dumb guy shtick jokes, but I guess it built up to a purpose. So yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Uh, Um, Drax. So special effects wise, I think I mentioned this at the time. I
Yeah,
was astounded that Drax was actually superhumanly strong, which sounds weird to say,
yeah.
but I can't think of any feats of strength in the other things where he appeared where he seemed significantly stronger than like Captain America or or, or anything like that. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But this movie, he was just tossing dudes 50 feet, and I was like, wait, what?
Yeah.
He can do that?
Yeah.
It explains in that one that one really badly CGI'd thing from Secret Wars that everyone's been showing around that Amelia Clark bothered to copy his strength.
Oh. Mm.
But and he and Mantis are just comedy gold together.
Yeah, yeah, they are. Yeah. Yeah, when they're at the hospital place, and she touches the guard and says, "You're madly in love with him." And he's like,
Eh,
"Oh, jeez."
eh, it's even better that you're madly in love with him,
Yeah.
and he's like, "Ah, every time."
Yeah. You're like, "Hey, how's it going?" "Oh, pretty good." Yeah, yeah.
So, and then Bradley Cooper as Rocket. It's his movie. He does a
Mhm.
good job with it. You don't get as much of classic side or quipping Rocket as you might like, but it's to a purpose.
Yes. Yeah. And once you see his backstory, it explains that scene in the first movie when he gets drunk. He's like, "I didn't ask to be ripped apart and then put back together." And then, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And then there's the character who isn't on here, who is the most important, the High
Yes.
Evolutionary.
Yes.
Good God. Yeah. I I wish if you could go back in time and whisper in somebody's ears, he's your Kang, that guy is your High Evolutionary.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
He's your big baddie for this phase.
Yeah, that guy was. Let's see, what's his name again?
Oh, I can't remember.
High Evolutionary. Uh, Chikwudi Iwuji. I
Okay.
hope I pronounced that correctly.
Yeah.
But uh, he was great. Like you hated that man
Yeah.
very quickly because he's like a classic mad scientist archetype. Like the line that sums him up is, "For God's sake, there is no God. That's why I had to step in."
Yeah. Yeah, that's a villain archetype that is not used in anymore. Is the mad scientist, and I'm glad we got to see one of those.
Yeah, he's like a mad scientist slash eugenicist. Like he just wants to correct the mistakes of the world and make a perfect civilization. which is why, and he doesn't see anybody as like actually valuable. All of Rocket's friends were just rough drafts before the animal people.
Right. Yeah. And and he has this whole like, and Imperial Cool even brings up he has this whole RoboCop thing with his face
Yeah,
on the yeah
yeah. Rocket had his way with his face after his friends died,
yeah.
and
Mm,
he has kind of like a Doctor Doom thing where he refuses to let anybody see the imperfection in his face.
right. Yeah. Yeah. He was yeah he was probably one of the best villains in we've seen in Marvel. You know.
Yeah, I mean he had a way. Uh, I would say that Ego had a pretty good setup too.
Hmm.
He definitely had a higher or a better setup than the Accuser from the Ronan the
Oh,
Accuser from the first Guardians.
oh yeah. 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 And I just liked how like when I was saying that you really you really hate this guy and the Guardians really hate him. Like the
Yeah,
scene when Quill and Groot are there, and he's monologuing with his whole evil shtick, and goes like, "Yeah, uh huh, yeah, I don't care."
yeah, uh, yeah. To kind of go back to Quill for a second, I think he's the most consistently written character in the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
Mhm.
In that, like his through line is he is a stunted man child who can, and they even get into this in the movie where he can't, he because he lost his mother at such a young age, he just clings to people, like especially women, just like it's like hopping from lily pad to lily pad in the pond of life, as Drax of all people manages to point out.
Yeah, yeah,
But
and and of course this whole thing is he keeps losing the people he loves. Like you said,
right,
his mom, and then Yondu, and then Gamora, and it's just like, yeah, he's, yeah,
yeah, it's why he goes back to Earth.
yeah,
Um, yeah, everyone turned in a good performance, and it was this like the last Marvel movie I was interested in. Um, I think I would have ended up going, yeah, if they'd had a smart release strategy and they had, waited more than a few months to put this in streaming. I probably would have gone to see it in theaters. But
yeah. Same here.
Disney isn't where it's at because they make smart decisions.
Right. Yeah. 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 They just well, we'll just dump it on the streaming service 2 months after release. Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah. At least I think they waited 90 days this time instead of 45.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
that's
It's
it.
a little better. Yeah.
Yeah, and I can see why this is the Marvel movie that did the best this year because while it has some hard themes to it, it's an enjoyable ride.
Yes. Yeah, I would agree. Yeah.
Speaking of people enjoying rides,
Hmm.
the Transition Game is at a 7 out of 10 this week, I think.
Yeah.
Um, although it was at the top of the DEG chart for the fifth, let's talk about the box office that was. And I need to click the actual right button.
Yeah.
All right,
There we
so
go.
Surprising Nobody, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Actually, okay, 45% drop is respectable.
Yeah, that's not bad.
Wasn't a good starting number, but uh,
Yeah.
it's a cheap movie that they, I was going to originally have a source for this, but um, apparently they have already sold $1 billion worth of Ninja Turtle merchandise for the year.
Yes. So that's why they're not too upset about this movie bombing.
No, I,
Um,
compared to its budget, I wouldn't even necessarily say. Well, actually, is it still doing nothing internationally? It's still doing
uh,
mostly nothing internationally
Mostly
compared to the
nothing. Yeah.
states. Yeah, it's probably not going to break even, but it's not like Lightyear bomb.
Right. Yeah. It kind of since they're doing like a TV show and then they got all this merchandise, it kind of reminds me of when the Clone Wars movie came out.
Hmm.
Because for those of you who might not remember this, before the year before the show premiered on TV, they put the movie out in theaters and it bombed.
Yeah, I mean, I personally enjoyed Truman Capote the Hut, but
Yeah.
Ahsoka did not come off well.
No. Yeah. And that was everybody's introduction to Ahsoka. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and of course, I think a lot of people saw, oh, Clone Wars movie? Is it that Jendy Tartakovsky 2D one from Cartoon Network? No?
Yeah. uh, but it didn't seem to bother them because they still did the TV show, they still did all the merch and everything, and did very well.
Yep. So it could be a similar situation.
Yeah.
Of course, at the top here, we still have Barbenheimer,
Yeah.
where Barbie refuses to stop making all the money.
Yes.
And Oppenheimer, also, both of these actually have very similar trend lines where they're both towards the top of their expected range.
Yeah. And hey, Ninja, good to see you.
Hey, hey. But yeah, so yeah, they're you're doing God's work keeping movie theaters in business,
Yes.
because we're still talking 8,000. Barbie is still raking in 8,000 a theater. Sheesh.
Man.
For the weekend.
Yeah.
Meg 2: The Trench had a pretty predictable big drop for a poorly reviewed monster movie.
Yes.
Um,
With Jason Statham being Jason Statham.
yes. It's continuing to do big internationally,
Mhm.
although again, since that biggest market for it is China, they're not making as much money as you would think.
Yeah, they only get 20%, 25% of that.
Yep. So, but it was, yeah, okay, that's right. That was a pretty expensive movie. Yeah, this one's probably a bomb.
Yeah.
But at least it wasn't 250 million like certain bombs we've been seeing all year. So
Yes, or 330 million.
and since that's another Warner Brothers movie, yeah, some of that Barbie money.
Yeah, yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
China has no taste.
I'll defend it. What I've heard is that a lot of these American movies that go over there uh, barely have subtitles, um,
Ah,
or at least like it's depending on the country, they'll have like minimal subtitles. So so things like Transformers movies classically or the Meg, it makes sense.
yeah.
There's
Yeah, and
actually a weird phenomena in like certain African countries where you'll have somebody kind of being a hype man and explaining the movie as the movie goes along, and they almost become more famous for that than the movie itself. Like there was this I want to say Ugandan movie called Whatever Happened to Captain Jack or something Captain Jack,
oh yeah. Yeah.
where they hired like it was like the first Ugandan action movie, and they actually hired one of these hype men to do that role for the movie or like, for the theaters.
Yeah, yeah, that movie is legendary, and not just in Uganda. It's like
Yeah,
people around the world love that movie.
I haven't seen it, but I've seen videos about it.
Yeah, I have too. Yeah.
So it's like a similar situation where it's like what's going to translate well, what's going to translate well, what's going to be absurd monsters and action movies and
Yeah,
things that look pretty.
yeah, do it. Uh,
I've heard argued for like 10 years that's part of why the mid-budget movie died out the way it did, because it's
mm,
like, well, if we're trying to sell it to Uganda and China and Middle East, do we want a movie about the plight of the middle class in Minnesota, or do we want big action monsters?
yeah, big action monsters. Yeah, gonna win
Yep.
every time.
We have another major release, the second the second Dracula movie to come out this year and bomb hideously, The Last Voyage of the Demeter.
Yes, and I watched Film Threats review of that, and they said it's terrible.
Yeah, which is it's based on an incident that was just covered briefly in. Oh, this must be spelled with a K. Um,
How do you not know that?
okay,
How
so I'm
did
obviously
you
spelling
not
it wrong.
recognize Nicolas Cage? It's
Oh, is it only Greg Cage? Nicola. Oh, he doesn't have a C or he doesn't have an H or a
oh, he
K in
has
his
an
name.
H. Okay.
Okay, because I'm just seeing what acting credits, dream scenario, their time. Renfield.
Renfield,
Okay. Let's see here.
26 million. Ooh.
Yeah. And so yeah, it's actually managed to have a worse opening weekend than Renfield.
Oh,
It's that power of that Nicolas Cage.
yes.
But also, yeah, this movie is based on like a prequel premise where, as I recall hearing about this, because I've never read Dracula, it was like a description of an event where the ship that showed up with Dracula to bring him to England, question mark,
I believe that's right. Yeah.
uh, was like completely bereft of crewmen or something.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I don't know much about Dracula lore, so.
I have
But
people who speak horror movie to tell me these things.
yeah.
Let's see here. Rolling out the top 10. Um, Haunted Mansion continues to be uninspiring.
Hmm.
Um, although kind of outperforming the Meg in the States, but we know that's doing, last I looked, it was doing nothing internationally. Yeah.
Yeah, not doing anything internationally.
And this was, thankfully, it wasn't a $200 million movie. It was only a $157 million movie.
Yeah.
So slightly less of a bleed.
Yes.
It's here. Talk to Me, the horror movie that I have no opinion of because it's a horror movie,
Yeah.
had actually a very small drop. So that's like 19% is nothing.
Yeah, that's not bad.
So clearly, people are giving it good word of mouth. Of course, the poster child for good word of mouth, we have Angel Studios' Sound of Freedom.
Yes.
And Mission Impossible, Unexpected Bomb. So
Yes.
yeah. It's actually okay. It has a lower box office than Indiana Jones, but also it's been out 2 less weeks. But man, everyone was like, "Haha, we're going to show you how to do an aging action star right." Screw you, Indiana Jones.
Yeah.
Although I'm pretty sure that it's smoking Indiana Jones's total box office. Indiana Jones is not seeing 400, which is insane.
Oh yeah. Yeah. And Ninja says it's actually a chapter in the original novel taking place between Jonathan Harker's stay at Dracula's castle and Lucy's illness. Yeah, it's an explanation of how Dracula got to England.
Okay, that's what I thought.
Yeah.
Cool. Thanks for fact checking me.
Yes, thank you.
And then in 10 and 11, this looks like some sort of Bollywood or Tollywood thing. Let's. Oh, I clicked on the wrong thing. Yeah, some sort of international release.
Yeah.
I don't want to make assumptions.
Yes.
And Godard, that's gotta be
Godard 2. I have no idea.
Yeah. So yeah, box office report is basically the same as it has been since Barbie released.
Yeah.
Things come in and sort of challenge the Barbenheimer duopoly, but Oppenheimer managed to climb back into second.
Yeah. Let's. I wonder if Blue Beetle will do it.
Oh yeah, Blue Beetle is going to make all the money.
Oh yes.
Which I think brings us to our culture topic of the week.
Yes.
So there are kind of two related stories that that pair together well. Everyone's talking Snow White. Let's talk Blue Beetle first.
Yes.
So let's see here. Is Angel? Okay, Angel is the director of Blue Beetle, but has the actor said anything out of left field or anything like questionable?
I don't know if he has or not.
Yeah, the director keeps shooting himself in the foot
Yeah.
because Angel Manuel Soto doubles down on promoting Blue Beetle with identity politics. Questions if it was possible to have a Latino superhero on a Times Square billboard. Um, well, so I guess I got to say that, look, man, I'm sorry that you were dealt a bad hand.
Yeah.
You bet on a dying horse.
Hmm. Yeah, the actor was Ninja say the actor was in Magic the Gathering channel playing Lord of the Rings. Interesting.
Okay, so he's an actual nerd then, so
Yeah,
good.
yeah, yeah. You know, Aaron Sparrow is somebody that we follow on Twitter. Uh,
Yeah,
said that I think uh, Latino audience. What did he say? Let me see.
I think Latino audiences would care more if Goku was on Times Square.
Yeah.
So I think that as one of the few people in the country who saw the Flash, the basic concept of adapting friggin' Flashpoint as your introduction to the Flash was stillborn from the start.
Yes.
I have a sneaking suspicion that that was done so that Jeff Johns could get another check. No confirmation, but he was an architect of the ZCEU, as memory serves.
He was. Yes. Yeah.
Okay, so that's my conspiracy theory.
Yeah.
Have no direct evidence for it, but when has that ever stopped a conspiracy theorist?
Yes. Yeah. And although I don't believe Ethan Van Sciver got one, but that's neither here nor there.
Yeah, which I haven't watched Ethan for a bit, but I'm sure that if he didn't get a check, then he was complaining about it,
Yeah, yes.
as is
uh,
his right.
yeah. 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 Ninja says he thinks the only controversy with the actor was in saying he won't promote the film. Oh well, that's not.
That's hardly a controversy. That's
No.
that,
Yeah.
that that's like everybody's not doing that.
Right. Yeah. I don't think they can.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
that would be scabbing.
Yes. Um. But
The director, on the other hand,
yeah.
uh, I he keeps I keep seeing his name come up with like him saying divisive things,
Yes.
not even necessarily untrue things, because the Jaime Reyes Blue Beetle story is about aliens doing a uh, corruptive form of colonialization.
Yeah.
Yeah, Blue Beetle confirms film includes themes of displacement, colonialism, and gentrification. Now, that that does bring up the question: Is he talking? Is that like happening just in the universe, or is that happening with the alien race that the Blue Beetle is there to fight?
Yeah. That's a good question. And we'd have to watch the movie to find that out, I guess.
Yeah, which
I have no interest in seeing this movie.
I'll catch it on streaming.
Yeah, me too. Yeah.
Because that's just it'll be a good thing of the week, and at some point.
Yeah.
But also it's like it sounds like it's just kind of mediocre.
Yeah.
Maybe if I hear amazing reviews, may-
Yeah. Yeah.
maybe Flash was my one pity buy for a DCEU film.
Yeah. Well, it certainly won't be Aquaman 2.
No, I, I've heard enough about that to want to stay away.
Yes. Pun
Uh,
very much intended.
so the thing is that I don't even want to get into whether the things he has said are true or not, because that's not on my plate. I'd have to like dig into what he was saying, do research. Meh.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, what I want to say is, hey, dummy, you know that like while it's great that it is actually legitimately nice to get a Latino superhero, because that is from my experience, uh, every Latino I know from work and other places is a weeb.
Mm,
So a cool action movie starring a Latino character would have that appeal.
yeah.
But you're kind of by making that all I hear anybody talk about with this movie, you're driving out, oh man, this is a cool movie. There's a scene where Blue Beetle punches a T-Rex. Probably isn't, but I wouldn't have.
Yeah.
All I know about the movie is in the trailer, which kind of makes it look like he's trying to be Iron Man slash Spider Man. But
Yeah. Yeah.
it's not a
Oh,
bad
yeah.
story to adapt.
No, and I liked him in Young Justice, the character in Young Justice. And I'm kind of curious if in the only thing I'm curious about with this movie is if the Scarab is talking to him.
I think in one of the trailers, the Scarab did say a line like "activating Blop."
Okay. Well, in Young Justice, it's like, I mean, it's like another voice in his head that's like telling him to do stuff.
So a little bit of Venom in there too.
Yeah.
But now on the other hand, you could say, "Hey, man, I'm not getting not getting a royalty check at this point anyway, because it's bombing. So I'll say whatever I darn well please."
Yeah. Yeah, that could be it. Yeah. But it's just like, I mean, but you're not doing yourself any favors. I mean, it's this sort of the way he's acting sort of reminds me of Josh Trank with his Fantastic Four movie.
Yeah, where Josh was complaining about it in advance, like, "Oh, this isn't my cut of the movie," yada yada.
Yeah, yeah. Although I don't know if that's the case with this movie, but it's kind of a
He
similar thing where he's like committing career seppuku, and it's just
eh,
mm,
anti-marketing,
yeah, anti-marketing. Yeah,
and that's where these two kind of go together. Is the theme of the day is anti-marketing.
yeah.
Have you heard a single positive thing about Snow White in the run-up?
No, I haven't.
Yeah, I heard somebody trying to say like it was somebody on Midnight's Edge was trying to say that there was like a positive, like, oh, the music is by the same people who did The Greatest Showman, and there are people who like that. Having seen Scrooged recently, which was also their music, it's like it's not. Dang, dang, was the music in that Star Trek special better than most of the songs in Scrooged?
Well, I didn't see Scrooge, so I can't comment.
I would have. Well, I don't want to watch both again, but
Yeah,
but it's in the running, and that we talked at length last week about how uninspired the musical was in Star Trek
yeah,
because they go for like wall of sound stuff.
right. Yeah, yeah. That was just that was painful. Yeah.
Yeah, I would say that I think Pink Ladies might be better than both of them musical wise.
I would agree with that. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
yeah, so dang, Paramount, stop making musicals. You clearly don't know
Yes.
what you're doing. At least
Yeah.
not for your streaming service. But back on point.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, so the actress who plays the actress who's going to play Snow White, Rachel Zegler, is just it's like they told her, we want to take the tax write off. Please go out and say as many things as possible to make people not want to see this movie.
Yeah. Well, yeah. It's almost like they saw the same production stills that we saw a few weeks back, and they're like, "Oh God, this is going to be a disaster. Oh, what do we do? What do we do? We'll just have the actress go out and say stupid stuff. All right, all right, all right, all right. Wait.
Except that doesn't work because she's been saying stuff for like a year now.
We'll just let her keep talking.
Yeah. Um, so like let's get into some of the comments here. So on some talk show, I think it was either Colbert or Kimmel, she admitted that she had only ever seen the original movie once and that it scared her.
Why would that scare
Which
her? Right.
Well, I remember my grandmother thinking that movie was scary when she was a kid and saw it. So
Yeah.
I
Mm.
guess it depends on the age. Like when you
Yeah.
think about there are scary images of the Wicked Queen and like her seeming to die and everything. So I
Right. Yeah. Yeah. When she turns into the hag, and then yeah. But well, yeah, and well, and on top of that, she also said that that Prince Charming was a stalker.
Yeah, the original cartoon came out in 1937, and very evidently so. There's a there's a big focus on her love story with a guy who literally stalks her. Weird, weird. So we didn't do that this time.
The part of me wonders if how much of that is her saying that, and how much of that is Disney PR telling her to say that.
Yeah, that's a fair question.
And
Uh,
maybe a little from column A, a little from column B.
yeah. When asked if the prince would even be in the film, Zegler answered, "We have a different approach to that. I'm sure a lot of people will assume is a love story just because we cast a guy in the movie, Andrew Burnap, great dude. That that she talks like people like tweet with no
Yeah,
punctuation or com-
yeah,
she
yeah,
continued, it's one of those things that I think everyone's going to have their assumptions about what it's really going to actually be, but it's not really about the love story at all, which is really, really wonderful. And whether or not she finds love along the way is anybody's guess until 2024. All of Andrew's scenes could get sentence incomplete. Don't
yeah,
know if that's the original source or if that's bounding into comics. Who
yeah.
knows? It's Hollywood, baby. The only bit of marketing in there was like, oh, is this going to happen? I guess I'll have to see the movie.
Yeah, which that's not very good marketing.
Ziegler then reveals what the film is really about. It's an inner journey that she goes on to find her true self, and she meets a lot of people along the way to make the journey really incredible.
Mm, yeah, she clearly it's very clear that she's only seen the original movie once.
Yeah, she's not going to be saved by the prince. She's not going to be saved by the prince, and she is not going to be dreaming about true love. She's dreaming about becoming the leader she knows she can be, the leader that her late father told her she could be if she was fearless, brave, and true.
The movie. That's not the story of Snow White.
Yeah, I think we said this when we looked at the production stills. It's like, okay, so we got this movie called Snow White, right?
Mhm.
Uh, the character has mocha skin, tan skin. I guess tan skin.
Yeah, yeah.
The character has tan skin. Oh, okay. But if it's the right actress, we can overlook that uh, as a casting choice. Let's. Although, like, I would say that Ariel in the live action one, it makes. Well, I don't want to get into that, but I'd say it's
Yeah,
probably more sensible than that casting choice.
yeah,
Uh,
yeah, yeah.
but okay, so what's her deal? Oh, well, she's Snow White. She has 7 friends who are magical creatures. Oh, you mean dwarves? No, that would be awful. We have one dwarf. Okay, is
Yeah.
she singing about how one day her prince will come? No, in fact, the romance is kind of up in the air. You'll have to see the movie, and she doesn't care about true love. Oh, okay.
Yeah. Yeah, why didn't yeah yeah why didn't you just make a totally different movie and not call it
Yeah,
Snow White?
yeah. You'd probably be attracting less criticism at this point if this was, oh, in our new fantasy movie, I don't know, Gretchen and the Seven Amazos. It's an
Yeah,
awful movie, but you get
yeah, yeah,
it's not, Gretchen and the Seven Amazos. Oh yeah, Gretchen is a princess. Her dad dies, and she has to become the leader that he knew that she could be. And she meets 7 Amazos who are like fantasy creatures, and one's a dwarf.
yeah.
Like I don't know that I would see that, but there wouldn't be anything to complain about.
Right. Yeah, yeah, and you're not sponging off of a beloved IP that has people have loved and adored for generations.
Yeah, like it's just you're just basically people talk about like how the 1998 Godzilla was Godzilla in name only, Gino or Gino. I don't know how you pronounce that.
Yeah.
Um, this is like Snow White in name only.
Yeah.
Like whatever criticisms you can make of the remakes of Beauty and the Beast and Aladdin and Little Mermaid, unnecessary.
Yeah.
um, I don't want to say unwanted because clearly not people went to see those that where there's an audience,
Yeah.
but this is like this is the most extremely different take because that with when you're moving all the themes of love and everything, you're not going to have One Day My Prince Will Come.
Right. Yeah. Uh, yeah. It's I was gonna say something else, but I can't remember what it was now. Yeah. Yeah, and I will say with regards to Rachel, I know a lot of people are saying like, well, she's only 22, and we all kind of said and did stupid things when we were that age, and
Yep.
you know,
The primary difference is that we didn't have social media to broadcast them to the world, thank God.
yeah, true, and but of course, and like I said, I don't know how much of it's her saying that or how much of it's like
Yeah.
PR speak, but it's you know, I mean, we were kind of talking this a couple of days before the show, but it's kind of like Brie Larson 2.0. It's just like, ugh.
Yeah. Okay, so the original animated film made it clear. So they're changing what fair means. So they don't mean, of course, they can't mean fair skinned, but they
Yeah.
they could mean, fair as in beautiful. But they are changing what definition of fair is. So that could just
Mm,
be like financial justice, whatever.
yeah.
Also, some of the missing words may not have been her fault because I noticed the writer here. The original animated film made it clear the term referred to beauty and was providing a lesson vanity. And they meant a lesson in vanity.
In
So
vanity. Yeah.
she might be more eloquent than I'm giving her credit for based on these quotes.
Yeah. Yeah. And Ninjas says, man, the controversy wouldn't be as bad if they just made a new Snow White animated Snow White film. Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, at the very least, the seven fantasy creatures would look better.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, it also occurs to me that like not only is this the case of Snow White in name only, and it's this is anti-marketing not necessarily because of any culture war aspects. Again, this is like narrowly defining the movie. Uh, Okay, so what's the point of a remake, Daniel?
Money.
Right, like why do you make a remake instead of making a new property?
Because you're drawing in people that liked the original movie, and you want them to go see it, see the new one.
All right, so even if the new movie was a complete bait and switch in all the ways that are being described here,
Hmm.
you could get a decent or even good first box office weekend if people thought they were going to go see uh, a true remake of the original Snow White.
Yes.
You're destroying the point of the remake because it's because like if any other company was making a Snow White movie and it was like this, it might be different. But this is Disney. They codified what Snow White was for 100 years almost.
Yeah. Yeah. It was that movie is Walt Disney's, like, that's his legacy.
Yeah,
That's part of his. It made Disney what Disney is.
yeah. Everyone thought it was Walt's folly and that they were going to lose their shirts and have to shut down
Yeah.
because nobody had been stupid enough to try to make a or an animated full length feature.
Right.
But darn it, he pulled it off.
Hmm. And it was a massive hit, and the rest, as they say, is history. And
Yep.
they're basically, well, and now they're rewriting that history.
Right. I got all the movies to get this in name only treatment. Snow White is probably the most disrespectful.
Yeah. Yes, I would agree with that wholeheartedly. Yeah.
And it's mildly hilarious to me because it's like they can't. It's like they can't. Ever since Aladdin and Lion King, all of their remakes have been complete horrible duds. Like,
Yeah.
well, okay, I mean, Pinocchio they dumped onto streaming instead of putting it in theaters because it was so bad.
Yeah. And
Uh,
same with uh Lady and the Tramp.
yeah, that was like one of the launch ones for Disney Plus.
Yeah.
Uh, and then of course you've got what was the other one? Uh, then like Little Mermaid added Aquafina rapping to it.
Right. Yeah. Jeez. And Mulan.
Oh yeah, can't forget Mulan.
Yeah.
Thanks, concentration camp operators.
Yeah. Ah, jeez.
It's still just amazing to me how well I should say it's astounding to me that Disney's bad press is only starting to catch up with them now.
Yeah.
Because considering years of wait what, wait what, wait what, wait what.
Well, as they say, money talks, and
Now that they're
it,
losing their money, and
yeah, and they can't afford to. Yeah, they can't afford to have their actors going out and saying stupid stuff.
yep.
Yeah.
So yeah, like I said, we don't necessarily want to get into like the culture wars aspect of it. It's more just like it's the power of anti-marketing. There's anti-health. This is anti-marketing
Yes.
for both of these professionals.
Yeah.
Uh, and I admit I had misread this and thought it was the actor who was a Blue Beetle who was saying silly things in advance. And
Mm,
so I was like, oh, they're both young and silly, and they've been raised in a world where you just broadcast what you think on social media, so they're not used to playing mum.
mm.
This is a grown man. I'm not sure what.
I would guess what 50s maybe.
Yeah, like 40s, 50s,
Yeah.
especially be given a like this is a good gig on paper.
Yeah.
Uh, so yeah, I don't know, man. It's just
Yeah.
it,
Yeah.
it's just not great.
No,
But
it's yeah.
I mean, thankfully, I don't own stock in either company, so it is not my or movie theaters, so it is not my problem.
Yeah, yes. Um, right. Are we gonna do the trailer reaction now?
Oh, that's right. We forgot. I was so caught up in nonsense that I forgot the fun thing.
Yes. It's all right. It's all right. All right. Let me.
Go ahead and stop sharing my screen.
All right, and I will do mine, and then of course I will be sure to edit this part out in the when I chop the stream up.
Yep. So those of you who are live, you're gonna have to wait for or those of you who aren't live, you're gonna have to wait for the cut up version.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. So, three. Okay. Okay. Well, let me set this up. Okay. Okay. We're going to be doing a little trailer reaction to the Scott Pilgrim anime, which is going to be dropping on Netflix. Uh, and we kind of have a complicated history with Scott Pilgrim. Let's just say that.
Yep.
All right. So, three, two, one.
We are Sex Before! 1, 2, 3, 4!
The animation is kind of reminding me of Panty and Stocking.
Yeah. Um. So I'm guessing this is a remake of the movie.
Yeah, it's I don't know if they're going with the because it just says anime. That doesn't necessarily like that. I would probably assume that means a full blown series, but it could be uh, it could be just another movie. But
Yeah. I think it's series because I googled it. It said series.
Okay.
Hopefully, we don't get a massive copyright claim on this with the music.
Yeah, that's the downside. Oh well, press on because they can have
Yes.
our pennies.
Yes.
This is very true to the original comic.
Oh, let me turn it down a little. Yeah.
But they are just the kind of the advantage of these simplistic character designs is that they can like really crank up the animation a bit.
Yeah. And for those of you who are wondering, the cast, this is the entire cast from the movie that's doing all the voices.
They brought back everybody.
Yes, even Brie Larson.
Well,
People
she was
forget
okay
she
in
was-
that movie, so we won't
Yeah,
hold that
she-
against her.
Yeah. Well, it didn't require much acting on her part.
That's true. That's true.
Yeah.
Like, they got Chris Evans.
Yeah.
That's a get.
All right.
So we gotta wait for November to see how that turns out.
Yes.
So, as somebody who enjoyed the movie way more than the comic, I don't know, Daniel. You might be too optimistic here. If they're doing a series, they're probably like this is probably like the Brian Lee O'Malley like finally getting the adaptation of the original story.
Maybe. Yeah. Which I mean, yeah. We'll just have to wait and see, I guess.
Yeah, and okay, the original comic wasn't awful. Like it just wasn't to my tastes, which is a different thing. There were some choice. So I would say the difference between the two. The movie is constructed more like a typical hero's journey type thing.
Mhm.
So there are moments in there where Scott gets to do heroic things and be clever that he didn't get in the comic.
Mhm.
For the comic is like an analysis of a slacker loser idiot and why he's an awful person, and so is Ramona and everyone else.
Yeah.
Like I think Knives is one of the only people who comes off well in that one.
Yeah.
So there's like some things where it's nice that they got more space to explore in the comic, but there were things that just peed me off.
Yeah.
Also, people like to talk about how oh, such and such was the introduction of, or some such and such is what ruined comics because everyone was trying to be such and such. It's Scott Pilgrim. It's 100% Scott Pilgrim because every character has like a jokey introduction,
Yeah.
like Knives Chow 17 or whatever.
Yeah.
And it's just it's one of those things where everybody loved it in the comic book circles and they applied it to the Justice League where it does not work.
Yeah.
So I call Patient Zero for the downfall of the mainstream comic book industry.
Yes, I would. Well, I haven't read the comic book, but I mean, I trust and respect your opinion on it. So
Well, and also you can extrapolate from the movie because the movie is true to the comic. It's just Scott comes off a bit better.
yes, which is odd considering that he's played by Michael Cera.
Michael Cera is probably like the perfect casting for Scott Pilgrim. Maybe
Yeah.
not much else, but for Scott Pilgrim, he's like a slacker loser. Like
Yeah,
that energy is perfect for him.
yeah, and yeah, between that and Arrested Development, yeah.
That might be why we haven't seen him in a lot of stuff for a while because he kind of, yep, those are the two roles he was made for.
Yeah, and nobody remembers him from Superbad. You
Oh
notice?
my God, he wasn't super bad.
Yeah, they remember Jonah Hill, but they don't remember him.
Well, that might be why Jonah Hill still has a career of some sort.
Yes,
Although I'm sure Michael Cera is doing something, but I couldn't tell you what.
he was in Barbie.
Oh, okay. Well,
Yeah.
then good on him.
Yeah,
I'm guessing he was one of the Kens.
I think so. Yeah,
Statistically, probably likely.
Well, yeah,
Decent
yeah.
guess, at least, from what I understand of the movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would call this eh, a firm. It'll be like a. It looks like this is going to be a very visual thing. So at least on that level, it'll be cool.
Yeah.
And who knows if they do a realistic retelling of the comic, maybe I'll enjoy watching it more than reading it.
Yes. All right. Well, I think we've talked all we can talk about.
Yes, my throat, it's dying.
Oh no. Well, thank you everybody for tuning in. We appreciate it as always. Hit the like button, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Hit the bell for notifications, and we'll see you next week. Bye, everybody.
Night, everyone.